Hi, I'm Dr. Amanda from Oceania Scientific Services, and you're listening to an introduction to data analysis in R. And welcome to clip 3 of 6. In today's session, we're going to get started with vectors and data frames. And we'll do this through looking at an example of fish and the length of fish. By the end of this clip, we'll have produced a very simple box plot. Let's begin. So last session you installed R and you had a go at making your first script, assigning some variable names and sending it into your console. Let's build on this knowledge. So first we're going to have a question which will inform our data. My question today is, are two different species of fish different in length? Quite a simple question. So I can get this information, maybe it's already written, maybe in some CSV files. In my case, it's some notes that my friend and I took when we went fishing last weekend. So when I caught a fish, I caught a silver fish. It was 23 centimeters long. My friend caught a fish. It was a blue fish and it was 40 centimeters long. Let's have a look at how we would handle this type of data. If we only have these two exact values, we would go from handwritten notes, enter values into R, and we'll have these lines of R code here. So we have species, the name of the species, silver, blue, and the corresponding lengths. I can make this into a data frame. If we'd been more successful in our fishing trip, I may have potentially been able to enter these descriptors describing 5 fish that we caught that ranged in lengths from 15 to 25 centimeters, 30 to 40. We'll have a look at this example towards the end of this clip. Furthermore, if we'd caught a lot of fish, we may have potentially filled a CSV file with quite a lot of values, and then we might be reading a CSV into R. Let's begin with this example here, however, with just our 2 fish. Okay, so we have a silver fish that's 23 centimeters long and a blue fish which is 40 centimeters long. So in R, how we'll enter it is as 2 vectors, one called species, and it has silver fish, blue fish, the names, and the other vector as length with 2 numbers, 23, 40, to represent the centimeters. We will then use the Dataframe command to join these 2 vectors together into a data frame called fish. Now, if this was Excel, the thing you might be more familiar with is setting up a species column and a length column, and each row would be a different observation. Once we've run this code, what you'll notice is when we generate our data frame, we'll end up with one of our columns being a factor or character and one being numeric. Okay, and let's go now to R and we'll have a go at producing this. So let's exit here, opening now, saved on your background, allow it to think. When I create a script, I always like to write my name onto it and the time that I last modified it, in this case March. This is important when you have a lot of versions of very similar scripts. You may also be sharing them with collaborators, other businesses, or other stakeholder groups. Having the author's name can be very important in these scenarios. The 3 aspects, data, visualization, analysis, is how I break my script up. Let's begin by the data. Silver fish. I can assign silver fish the value of 23. I can have a blue fish and assign it the value of 40. Okay, so now I have just 2 values. However, there is a slightly more sophisticated way we can do this, which will allow for a more insightful analysis and visualization. We first set up species. and we put in the names of these two fish. Silver fish, blue fish. Control Enter. I don't have to be outside of my brackets to press Control Enter, and I send it down to my console. Separately, I'll set up length, concatenate with the open close brackets, and I'll enter the two values, 23 and 40. Oops. Make sure you use commas. There we go. Excellent. So I now have numeric for lengths, character for our species, which is what I need to be able to perform a box plot. Let's do one last step, which is making these into a data frame. Calling it fish, typing the word data frame. I want species and length. Okay, now I have a data frame called fish. 2 observations, 2 variables. When I click the down arrow, I can see species length. Now this is called a vector. A vector is a string of values. A data frame is full of vectors which now are columns. So each column is a vector that I can call upon. The syntax to call upon that column would be fish, name of the data frame, a $sign, and it's R's actually helping me here. I could choose from species or length. Control Enter, and now I have my levels, blue fish, silver fish. Data frame, dollars, length, and now I can see my numbers. It looks exactly the same as when we originally made our vector of lengths. Great. Alternatively, we could use square bracket notation, and this tells R to look inside the data frame. When I do the number first with a comma and blank, I'm asking R to go to the data frame called fish, go to the second row, and tell me all values in the second row, which include blue fish and length of 40. Let's have a look at the second column. Removing that 2, putting a 2 in after the comma, I now have lengths, 23, 40. And you will know this from position 1 as species, position 2 as lengths. Have a play using the square brackets and dollar notation to call on your different vectors, and also use the square notation to call on your rows. Let's create our first box plot. We don't have many values, so our box plot will not be very interesting at this stage, but let's still do the syntax. We're doing length. The next key you need to know is shift, and in the top corner there's a tilde symbol. It's like a squiggly line. You need to use that to mean species may be used to predict length. That's the English equivalent of this statement. Comma, the data set is called fish. I beg my pardon, there we go. Box plot, and there's our first plot. We have 2 lines because only 2 values have been entered so far, so we don't have our actual whiskers on our plot yet. And we have our 2 groups. Well done. Now the box plot was part of our visualize. Sweet, so I'll separate that out. Visualize using a box plot. Here's our data creation. Let's have a look again at our slides. Well done creating your R scripts. Let's have a look at what we did today. So first we asked a question. Is there a difference between 2 fish species lengths? We created a data set and we did that twice. Once using very simple numbers, we just had one observation of 23 centimeters and one of 40 centimeters. And the second time we used the run if statement to make a random set of numbers informed by a minimum and a maximum value. We were then able to visualize this, creating a box plot. In our next clip, we'll look at a simple t-test, which is a way to analyze this data to see if there is a difference between these species statistically. All the material you saw here today is available from Oceania Scientific Services. Please visit this website and have a look. Have a great day. Thank you.